Or when are we going to do the blood work, by the way, Gaetan? When are we going to show those images?
Oh, I think we can show them, towards the end of the night.
These people?
Yep.
So these people have been already tested. Their bloods have been taken. Then Clint brought them in and then sat them there, and we put patches on them. And
I can attest that they're all grounded here.
Yeah. So we put more patches on them. We want to make sure. And they're.
After she started, he'll go back and take her.
Let's go. So we got 1 hour after they actually became grounded.
Right.
So basically it's 20 minutes.
Yeah. And so we're going to go bring them back and get another blood sample and then bring to you and see the difference. They're going to look just like those that you've seen there, but these are real things.
They're real people.
Right now. Real people right here. And we want to ask them also at the end how they feel.
So we're going to see that. So we're going to see some of this pain that we've noticed. Oh, this pain's been going on. Where is it going to go, right? And actually, one of the things about pain, again, is that inflammatory response, the free radical reaction, which is causing the pain. As soon as the electricity is available, and when you ground yourself, that electricity is pulled into you right to the point of inflammation, because that's the place where the deficiency is. And immediately, it starts neutralizing free radical reactions. What am I hinting about? What am I hinting about here? Antioxidants.
Yes.
Because basically, this is free antioxidants that we're getting from the earth. How many people have heard about antioxidants before? What are they? It's basically hydrogen. It's electrical charge electrons. It's pigments of color in plants. The pigments, it's like the mating dance between male and female in the animal kingdom, through all the kingdoms, the reptile kingdom, everything. You will see that in that dance, there's a plume of colors, right, in order to attract the opposite sex. That's what the earth does to the sun. The earth shows a plume of colors, right, to the sun. And that's that dance, and the earth's energy is negatively charged as female, and the sun is male, and essentially the meeting where they meet together, that's where we have that neutralization of the free radical. And what we have actually at that point is the formation of the most basic element of life, which is water. And it's like dew water. That's actually what's occurring right there at that point where they meet each other. Because when you neutralize oxygen with hydrogen, what's the result? Water. Now, that's exactly what I'd want in a bad point of inflammation. If I had broken an arm or a leg or something and it had been going on for years, what do you want forming right at that healing surface? You want the most pristine dew water. We are going to talk about, and it's one of the first times I think it's ever been talked about in a health presentation, the relationship between DNA and water. That's something that's going to come in. I'm so excited about this DNA presentation coming in tomorrow. All right, so we're seeing here, again, this is the pain scale. We're seeing changes, radical changes. If you're grounded, obviously it's much different than if you're not grounded. Let's keep going. Blood pressure. Look at that. Look at that. And let's keep going. This is some of the research that Clint gave me. He gave me about 40 different markers all mapped against each other. One of the things that we see in this type of graph is that in the ungrounded system, when you start taking all of these numbers and mapping them on top of each other, so you create a complex graph, here's 4 of them against 4 of them, or is it 5? It's 5 on 5. What you start seeing is the ungrounded situation creates disorder, and the grounded situation, you start seeing things moving towards order. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. This is the first time, and this is the first invention ever, that we know completely neutralizes inflammation. So look at the folding over of knowledge that we're all experiencing in our world. We've seen what's happened with computers. How many people here are still using the Commodore 64 computer? None of you? I remember seeing the Commodore 64 computer, and I thought, you know what? I'm going with Apple. I remember that thought as a kid. How many people here are still using the original Macintosh? Do you still use the floppy disks? Can you surf the internet with that thing? Why not? Because it's old technology, right? We upgraded our operating system. So we're going through an operational upgrade all the time. You know how it is now. You remember how it used to be? You used to have to go buy, in the old days, which is like 5 years ago, you had to go buy the upgrade. Now it's automatically emailed to you or comes through the internet. And it's like, Mac OS 10.4 is now available, just hit this button. It's gotten easier, hasn't it? It's getting easier and easier as the technology upgrades. So that's kind of what's happening here in this field, of course, is as things advance and the knowledge shows up, it just gets easier and easier and easier and easier and easier, and then the effects become even more radical. Like 20 years of inflammation and problems, it's like gone in an hour. It's like, huh? That was like, that to me is like how it used to be with computers. Remember like DIR and that nightmare? That was the worst nightmare. And now you just point and you go, okay, we're going to have that. We're going to move this over there. And, you just point at a picture and move it. The graphical user interface. Everything gets easier as technology advances. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now, this was a study this blew my mind when I first heard about this study. This was a study with, 30 rats in each cage? Was it 30? Okay, so 30 rats in each cage. One cage is grounded, the other isn't. That's the only thing different. Everything else, the same. All the food's the same. They're right next to each other. What's the difference? Well, the summation of all of that you could read right there, some could be factors forming a pattern, maybe related to metabolic syndrome, and all that stuff you see there. Basically, what's indicated by this study is that metabolic syndrome. What's metabolic syndrome? Right, can't lose weight, the energy's stuck, can't get on the diet that's really going to work for you, can't get your thyroid working. All that stuff is all related to being disconnected from the Earth's EMF field. And so all the rats in the ungrounded cage started to develop, essentially, metabolic syndrome. Just that. Isn't that shocking? I know. That's why this invention about the shoe, it might be the worst invention ever. Now, there's a whole industry coming. You feel it, don't you? What's coming? A whole industry of grounded shoe wear. There are whole industries coming of grounded bedding. There are whole industries coming of grounded flooring. There are whole industries. You see where it's going? It's all of that is like, these are the opportunities of the future. I was on the phone the other day with a very dear friend of mine, one of the most titanic entrepreneurs on the earth, who's a raw foodist in the most environmentally friendly business in New York City, Organic Avenue, my friend Doug Evans. And he said, he was reciting Og Mandino's famous words, and he said, I asked not for opportunities, because I know that opportunities abound. I ask for the skills and disciplines necessary to take advantage of the infinite opportunities that are always available to me. He answered the phone at 3:47 a.m. on Monday morning on the first ring. That's the kind of guy this guy is. Avocado, what's up? This is the best day ever. I was like, Raw CEO, I knew. We call him the Raw CEO. I knew you would answer because I got to the end of the day. I was in Hawaii, so I'm 6 hours apart, and it's like 9:47 my time. I'm like, he'll answer. It was the last thing I had to do on the day is call this guy, and that's what I got. And I said, are you sleeping grounded? He said, of course. I'm not sure if he was, but he said it. Anyway, great kudos. If anybody here from New York? Jersey, all right. Toms River, New Jersey. Highest cancer rate in America. And I was born there. I was born in Toms River, New Jersey, right next to Toms River. That thing is loaded with dioxin, cadmium, mercury, lead, arsenic, the whole 9 yards. Highest cancer rate in America, Toms River, New Jersey. That's where I was born. Isn't that trippy? Anyway, if you're from New York, Organic Avenue, they do it right. Glass juices. Everything cleaned by hand. They're gearing up to serve 2 million juices this year in New York City, and it's called the Love Cleanse. Something to consider. And I said, Doug, I'm coming over there on Tuesday, what's the date of that? It's April 27th. I'm going to do a presentation on Organic Avenue, and we're going to get people grounded. All right, let's keep going. Look at this. You know this. You've suspected it, but just to kind of put the numbers behind it, this is what's occurring. We are seeing explosions in allergies. We are seeing explosions in autoimmune conditions. What's an autoimmune condition? Right. The immunity, it's like inflammation. It keeps sending free radicals to fry down what's going the problem, but there's no antioxidant to stop it, and so the thing gets chronic, and it keeps going and going and going. Now, what happens when you ground yourself? Two things. The antioxidants become available. That's more than two things. But the other thing is you connect to the circadian rhythms of the earth, so your intelligence of your immune system increases because you're connected to the intelligence of the earth, and all of a sudden your body goes, oh, this is foreign and that's domestic. Just an interesting idea. I'm going to repeat the idea, but I find it fascinating. When I'm ungrounded, I'm on a carpet. I'm not grounded. I step on this pad over here. My intelligence improves. I step off it. I'm in outer space. I'm not grounded. It's like I'm floating around out in outer space somewhere. I step back on it. My intelligence improves, just like that. Now we're going to see the brain waves. It's coming up. Now autoimmune conditions, just for those of us who are unaware, lupus, Epstein-Barr, MS, fibromyalgia, type 1 diabetes, all of this kind of stuff. Epidemic today. Okay, it's affecting millions of people. Look at this, 15 to 24 million people in the U.S., 75% of which are women. Remember, there's a differential in the way that these things affect women and men. Okay, so then we're coming back to the missing link, and this is what I want to bring up. Where did he go? Where's Clint? Did he just step out? I think he took a bathroom break. Clint, who's sitting up over here, he was a cable guy, and he was doing grounding he laid all the cable TV in for everybody. He was part of that revolution. You remember when cable TV showed up? It's like, oh, we're going to get HBO. In 1980, we went from, oh, we're going to get HBO, all the way in 2010 to 1 million internet TV shows. The amount of YouTube videos that are downloaded onto phones every 24 hours is something like 30 million a day. It's higher than that. That's the old statistic. Meaning that there's so much going, that right to your phone is now your TV. Can you believe it's gone that far that quick? And it's whatever you want. You want to watch me on grounding? You can go, boom, it's on your phone. You're like, look at this guy. So we are, in a lot of ways, the luckiest people that have ever lived. What we have access to, the information, is radical. And it's increasing very quickly, isn't it? We are here to get right to the leading edge of the curve. My friends today they're saying the bleeding edge. I'm like, dude, we're not bleeding. We're done with bleeding. The leading edge of the curve. And in order to get to that leading edge, it's just a couple insights, isn't it? You know how to use an iPhone. You're a million miles from the Commodore 64 computer, aren't you? It's a couple little things. Is it hard? All you do is you go, remember the other Commodore 64? That massive terminal and this like nightmare situation. As information folds over, as technology advances, everything becomes easier. However, we do start to see the momentum and residues of the brick and mortar institutions and how outdated they are. So let me just put this here out to you because I love it. I love talking about this. All my crew, they're like, dude, don't talk about that. But I love talking about it. And this is it. There's a tension building between the brick and mortar institutions in every field and where we're really at. There is no possible way that the brick and mortar education institutions will be able to compete with the internet. It's not possible. It's over. In every field, including medicine. In every field, the internet automatically deletes all of that stuff. You know, we run thebestdayever.com. How many people have been on thebestdayever.com? Ooh, that's a good part of you. Wow. Yes. Okay. Now, I've had 21-year-old kids get on that website in 6 weeks. They're where I'm at. Well, how'd they do it? They just MP3 load their iPod, and it's nonstop 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, even when they're sleeping. My friend Ross, CEO, used to listen to Ogmandino at triple speed all night long. I'm not kidding. I used to sleep over his house. It was unbelievable. Be like, I'll remove from my vocabulary such words as quit, cannot, unable, impossible, out of the question, hopeless, and defeat, because those are the words of fools. I will persist until I succeed. YouTube, the second largest search engine on the internet right behind Google, is completely deleting our old ideas about what's real and what's not. Because you don't believe in something, you watch 1,000 videos on it, and then we'll see where you're at. Do you see how our old programming just is defeated by that, isn't it? Whatever our programming is, we just get on, let me just check this out on YouTube. After 1,000 videos, we start going, maybe it's something else than what we thought it was. So the power of education is radical in this area. And when we're on YouTube, now look at what's happening now. Because I'm on my YouTube, right? I'm like this, I'm like that. I'm grounded while I'm doing this. That means I can do this longer without getting tired or zapping myself out with all kinds of energies or whatever, right? So then I'm getting even more education because these technologies nest into themselves. And that's something we're going to be looking at it with this DNA idea, is that when we are dealing with these technologies and all these fields, if we are really activating on where the cutting edge is on everything, we find that they all nest into each other so that you can do them all at the same time together. So for me, it's like, look, if I'm off this thing, I got my zapper going, dude. Look at that. Boom, right there. You didn't know that, did you? Because I knew I had to walk across carpets and stuff, and I got to mimic the Earth's frequency, so that's how I do it. But, if I'm out here, no problem. It doesn't, But I can step off, and I'm not that worried. And people are like, dude, that's like too much. This is, is that over the top? And the answer, guess what the answer is? No, it's not too much. It's not. Because I have trained myself, because I have to be there as the information leader in this field, I must act immediately, and I must assume the place, and this is an assumption I'd like us all to have, and we're going to be working on it. I must assume the place that I can master anything quickly. I must assume that. Now, I'm fortunate because I have guys like Doug Evans who are like, dude, it's simple. You can figure it out. Watch. And just boom, just able to hammer me through my own limitations, right? This is really important. You have guys like that just push you, pound you, and push you through all that limitation. But ultimately, for all of us, because of the radical changes that are occurring, we must move to a level of mastery very fast in every field. And essentially, it's always easy, isn't it? Like, is a PC really different than an Apple? It's, yeah. PC is horrible, but okay. But if you really have to sit on a PC and go, oh God, okay. Now I got to pull up this file. Where is that, little drive? Oh, it's over here. I have to go into my computer and that. Oh, God. But it's essentially the same idea. So you can figure it out if you have to. And you can step by step, slow down the ADD. The ADD, it's like 1 minute and 29 seconds on YouTube, and then you click the button even if you want to watch. Even if it's a 3-minute video, you're clicking at 129 off it because it's just that ADD impulse. It's just like click, and you're like, oh, no, I really wanted to watch that. Has anybody done that? It's like, it's because you just start clicking through so many things, like, outrageous. This nesting idea of all these things is really the future, because ultimately there are so many technologies that are going to be delivered to us that it's, for where I'm going, it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to nest it all together. I need to figure out what's in my little doctor's bag of all my goodies so that I can fold the information into itself. We're going to get into a whole thing this weekend that it's never been revealed to the public before, about medicinal mushrooms, the very cutting edge. And then how that fits into blue-green algae and that whole cutting edge. And then how that fits into aged garlic extracts and that whole cutting edge. And how that fits into where are you going to get your bulk and fiber from, and living foods, and how that fits in, right? And so all these things nest into each other, and when you pull that all together, you got something that's like we couldn't even have imagined in 1970, the year I was born. We couldn't even have imagined it. And so I love what Aubrey de Grey says. He says that if you can live long enough, you're going to live a lot longer. Do you get that? right? Because the information, it's like, oh man, if I can just hold on. I'm just kicking and scratching. I'm holding on for this. Because you never know what's going to be right around the next corner. What developments are coming. And from my perspective, what I'm seeing coming around the corner is it's like miles beyond where we could have even imagined. People ask me all the time about coenzyme Q10, which is, amazing if it's the good stuff. So we finally got the German technology, coenzyme Q10, 9 times more powerful than anything that's ever been on the market before at half the price. That's another thing, too. It's all this, everything's coming down and going up in quality. You see what I'm saying here? So now it's like, whoa, coenzyme Q10 suddenly comes back into the equation. And it's like that with everything that's going on. And our goal is to bring that to you and just say, like, okay, I've got agents running around the world, literally, who I call up or meet with me. Like last night, Ian Clark, he's like literally an agent. He's a superhero secret agent, Inspector Gadget. And what he does is he just tunnels right to the core of what's going on in LA in the health food scene. He goes right to the core. He tunnels right to the core of what's happening in Vancouver in the health food scene. He tunnels right to the core of what's happening in Toronto in the health food scene. Tunnels right to the core, and then, boom, I call him up and said, what'd you find out? Yep. And so then he gives me the download, and it's like, okay, I heard that from this and that. Okay, this might be something of interest, right? And then I've got other dudes that are doing that, and then a gal over here is doing that. And eventually, through cross-referencing that with the crew, like Len and everybody, we bring the people here who we believe have got the cutting edge and right there at that bleeding edge. Is that good stuff? All right, now I'm going to bring Clint Ober up here because we are going to do questions and answers, which is going to be awesome because this guy, when you ask him a question, he's got one heck of an answer usually. And it's not what I always expected too, which I love about that. So Clint, you want to come up here for a second and you're going to have to take your shoes off. Oh yeah, okay, good. Clint Ober, everybody. Woo!
She comes back. You go.
Woo! Okay. Creator of the grounding technology. Woo! So this is the man who discovered all this stuff about grounding and the importance of it. Obviously, shamans have known about it since the beginning of time. Indigenous people like in Indonesia, they know this stuff. But in the Western world, we need like the pioneer. And this guy is a pioneer. Clint, tell us how it all came about.
Well, that's a long story, and we don't have time for it tonight. That's why we wrote a book. But basically, it all started out, it's basically cowboy logic. I spent 30 years in the communications industry where we work with ground. I mean, if in communication equipment, it has to be grounded in order to function properly. Like in a cable system to prevent signals from leaking out or environmental signals from leaking into the cable, you have to, you have the cable and you ground everything to the earth. And it's the earth's surface charge on those that shield and prevent the buildup of charges, which might interfere with TV signals and so on. But anyhow, one day I was sitting on a bench and I was watching a lot of people go by, and they were all wearing shoes, rubber-soled shoes. And for some reason, it just came into my mind that, we used to be barefoot. In 1960, we invented plastics. The first thing we did was put them on our feet and insulate ourselves from the earth, then the carpets, and now we can't touch the earth. But anyhow, just the thought went through my mind, is there a possibility, because the body is a natural conductor, is loss of electrical ground, could it have some effect on our physiology? I had no background whatsoever in biology or anything to do with health. I was basically a cable guy, I guess.
Isn't that a movie?
Yeah, I think so. But anyhow, the story is long, and I've spent the last 11 years trying to answer that question. And there's been dozens of studies, endless amounts of education trying to get the scientific community to participate in it. The last thing any real scientist wants to do is to associate with some crazy idea. So it was a real challenge, but thank goodness for Gaetan and many others who have participated along the way, and it's brought us to this point. So basically, I'm not sure what to say right now, but I know a lot of you may have questions, and where I do best is ask me a question. I can give you an answer. Yes.
Get a mic runner. Please don't speak unless you have a microphone. We have a mic runner right over there and right over there.
She's coming right behind
Here?
you. Right up here in the front.
I just didn't want to interrupt while you were talking, but as far as being grounded, I was raised in Seattle, and I ended up with cancer, ovarian cancer, and also my family was riddled with psoriasis. And I could hardly wait to get out of the rainy weather, and I moved down to Honduras, where I went barefoot all the time. And then when I came back to Florida to have tests done, it was gone. And then I returned to Seattle because of sickness in my family. And my ovarian cancer returned, and I had to have it frozen off. I went back to Florida, and it disappeared. So every time I went someplace where I needed, I ran around barefoot whenever I could in Honduras. So there was like this huge aha that came upon me when you were talking, and I was just like wanting to jump up and go like, yeah, grounded.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure David covered this when I was out of the room, but basically I've always held this belief that if you remove the stressors, the environmental stressors, and in this case it's shoes, and put the body back in its most natural state, the immune system stabilizes and the body only knows to do one thing: return to normal.
Yeah, every time I came up and put shoes up on in Seattle for a couple of years, it always came back.
So I just want to say something about this. This is so important about what you're saying here, and that is bringing light to moments like in summertime, moments that we remember of feeling the best we'd ever felt in our life, hanging out with our friends. But when we really think about it, we were barefoot in those moments, and just connecting that up. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Yes.
Mike.
I can pick
Who's
one.
got the question? Sherry? Let's bring it all the way around.
Don't walk down the aisle.
Good.
Yes.
Stand up. Recently, I've become addicted to handstands. And I would get to about 20 seconds, and admittedly, it was like 17, 18, 19, 20. And it was actually the week David was out in Australia. And I think it was the day, actually, we went to lunch. And I did a handstand. I hugged a tree, and then did a handstand against the tree. And I got to 60 seconds.
There you go.
And then I did one for 40 and 30.
Yeah.
Can you explain or add to that?
Yes, I can, I think. Basically, it's all the metabolic processes that are going on in the body when you're burning energy. And when you're grounded, you have this infinite source of, the Earth's energy. But also in our studies, we know that your respiration changes when you're grounded. Your CO2 levels will drop. It goes on and on and on. But basically, your physiology totally changes. But all of the weightlifters, all of the athletes over the last 7-8 years, they all are experiencing the same thing you're talking about: increased strength training, more endurance, faster recovery. But weightlifting, we have many of the world's champs of everything. But this one guy who's like 56 years old, and I don't know the full story, but Ken Jones is his name. But he is lifting 500 pounds. And at his age, he should be decreasing the amount of weight that he's lifting, but he's actually up to 585 and is now the world champ. And he credits it all to grounding. But it's just more energy. The Earth is energetic. It's a source. When you're connected to the Earth, your body's like a fuel cell. You oxygen, electrons, and it's just more efficient. I'm not sure David can probably explain this a lot better.
Well, it's this better living through electromagnetism, essentially, is really what we found out. And chemistry, if you've ever done chemical reactions in laboratories, it takes a second to occur. But electricity is instant. It's the speed of light.
Yeah.
And that's how your body works.
Yes.
And speaking of magnetics, Clint, just to clarify a few things, because we discussed magnetic mattress pads and the difference between that and being grounded I think it's really important that people know this, get this download, and why magnetic mattress pads work for a while and then stop working.
Well, first of all, Earth's ground is it has diurnal rhythms. Every 30 seconds, it goes through a series of Every 30 seconds, it goes through a series of rhythms called the Schumann resonances and so on. But then the amplitude of the Earth's energy will be at its highest about noon, and it'll be at its lowest at night, at about midnight. And this is all kind of related to sleep. But it's the Earth's electric fields and their patterns are kind of, I believe, the metronome for the hormone cascades and for a lot of the biological clocks in the body. Okay, but what I'm really trying to get to is the Earth is dynamic. It's energy. It's related to everything in the cosmos, everything that's going on in the atmosphere, and everything inside of the Earth. A magnet is a static field, and there's no natural source that I know of or where the magnetism is part of biology. But what happens generally when you use a magnet is you put it on the skin, especially if it's a high Gauss magnet. It will induce some stress into the body and invoke an immune response. And because the body, anytime anything foreign comes into the energy field or into the body's going to respond to it because it doesn't know what it is. But anyhow, the response will invoke an immune response, which will stimulate healing, stimulate all kinds of activity. But after a little bit of time, the body says, okay, this isn't here to harm me, or I can't do anything about it, so I'm going to adapt to it and go on. And then you generally, that's the difference. But so Earth is giving you a signal, then it's giving you a timing mechanism, and it's giving you electrons. And it's every breath, everything. I mean, you're living in harmony with the Earth. You are the Earth. I mean, at that point. So the magnets are a totally different thing. There's no relationship whatsoever between a magnet and grounding. Yes.
I used to have psoriasis.
Mike.
I used to have psoriasis really bad on both of my feet, and it was growing up my legs. And I've been doing the longevity technology and things for a while, and it's been all going away except on my right foot. And then I was realizing that's the foot that's always pushing down on the foot pedal when I'm transcribing.
Right.
And I'm wondering, what can I do so that, because I can't seem to get rid of it on that foot that's touching the transcriber.
Just to clarify, one foot is grounded, the other foot is not grounded.
Yeah, the other foot may not be grounded, but like I'll usually be wearing a zapper,
right,
and things like that. But the other foot's never touching that pedal. It's only the right foot, and that's the only foot. The left foot used to have all the psoriasis, totally gone.
Right.
The pedal you're talking about, is it feeding? Are you talking about an automobile or?
Like I have to. It's electrical and it's connected to my computer.
Okay.
And I used to feel the difference. I always wear shoes when I use it because I could feel something.
Okay.
And I didn't like that feeling.
First of all, find out if your computer is grounded.
Oh, you can ground a computer?
Well, most computers are grounded. Some aren't. Some electrical outlets in your home are not grounded. And when you plug a computer into it that's supposed to be grounded, not grounded, then it generates huge electric fields. And that's what you're talking about, from my experience. But check your outlet, make sure your computer's grounded, and then ground yourself with a floor mat or a grounding device.
Maybe, put one of these right on top of the pedal. I was in Clint's room last night, and he went around with his AM radio detecting the EMF fields coming off his computer, which to me was totally shocking. I mean, I'm always shocked. We've all been shocked whenever we've done the EMF test on our home, near the outlets and stuff. But computer was very high. And when we get deeper into this, we're going to show you images of 60 hertz sine wave, which is what's coming through all these lights and all the electricity, is brought totally down and normalized when we're grounded. So I would just literally lay one of these right over your pedal.
I think this is a really important distinction also because we have, I think a lot of times when we talk about EMF, pollution, we want to block ourselves immediately.
Right.
We think we want to protect ourselves, like with a Faraday cage.
Right.
But when we're grounded, we're actually connected to the earth and into those circadian rhythms, whereas when we're protected in a Faraday cage, we're actually not grounded at all.
Yeah, and see, this goes back to the cable television concept or shielding concept. When you connect something to the earth, then the earth's surface charge comes up the wire, charges the computer or the electronic device, and prevents EMI, electromagnetic interference. And so, but we can get into that, but it's too techy and too detailed to get into really.
Let's talk a little bit about your prototype study with sleep, because this is another thing we've probably been tuning in a little bit, that there's a lot of sleep disorders today, a lot of insomnia. Your prototype study was done on sleep. I put the numbers up there. It was 38 women, 22 men. Do you want to talk about that study a little bit?
Yeah, sleep. That was the first thing I experienced. When I first grounded myself, when I first asked the question, the first thing I did, because I knew to do this, is I went and bought a ground rod, stuck it in the earth, and run a wire into my home. I measured all the electric fields and realized the problem. And I wanted to ground myself to get rid of that. But later on, other things showed up to find that connecting to the earth was much more important than just eliminating the electric fields. But so anyhow, the number one thing that showed up in the early study for myself and all of my early friends that I got to play with me was significant improvements in sleep. And later on, what I found out was it's the reduction in pain, a lot of it. It allows you to sleep better.
So let's go through these results here.
Yes.
This is shocking.
Yeah, this was the first study. When I first started to do the studies, we had to do one study. It was an anecdotal study to get enough information so we knew what to research or where to research. But we had 60 subjects. 30 of them slept on pads that were similar to this in size, believe it or not. And 30 of them, I mean, they all had pads, but in the wires, some of them had a dummy fuse that blocked the current, so they didn't know whether they were grounded or not. And then we had people who were taking weekly reports off of these people. But anyhow, the average, 85% of the people went to sleep more quickly when they're grounded. It's phenomenal. I mean, and to this day, once I'm grounded at night, I'm going out at a pretty, in a few minutes. But 93 reported sleeping better throughout the night, and what that meant is, especially for the men, they didn't have to get up and go to urinate as many times throughout the night. The number of times they had to get up and go to the bathroom at night were significantly reduced. That's major.
Wow.
82% a significant reduction in muscle stiffness and soreness. Basically, most people, when they get up in the morning, they're stiff and sore and they're in pain. Bones are, you have to limber up, loosen up, whatever. It's painful to get up. But that was one of the things that really came out loud and clear from most everyone. Experienced elimination and reduction of chronic back pain and joint pain, which is similar. And that was, before then, I didn't know that the immune system was involved. I didn't know any of this. That was basically arthritis, is what we were seeing there. And the main thing is more energy, just improved general health. They didn't get sick as often. They just had more energy. They were happier people. Their demeanor changed. Their color changed. Some of the people you wouldn't even recognize after grounding for 30 days. But that was the first study we ever did just to the cable guy.
So now this next slide I'm going to show you here is a shocker, because in any study it's never 100%. But in fact, in this study you had 100% of the participants reported feeling more rested when they woke up.
Yeah, in a study you're not supposed to have 100% of anything. If you do, you're supposed to throw it away and start over. I didn't know that at this time, but I didn't. But anyhow, that was the number one thing that everybody reported. They had more energy when they woke up in the morning. They felt better. They were more rested. They were more healed, more recovered from the previous day.
You see how the ramifications of what this means here and how far it goes. Obviously, as a scientist myself, and you are now a scientist with all you've been through, and we've talked about this, Every study that's going on in every building where the Petri dish is ungrounded is going to be dramatically different than if it is grounded.
Right.
Every study where they're doing tests on this mouse or that rat is going to be dramatically different if the cage is grounded versus not. Every home now needs to be looked at and understood in terms of it being a capacitor of energy, and where is the grounding energy available in that home. I mean, everything changes. The way you sleep. Then we've got the car.
Right.
And I mean, it just goes on and on like this. So the reason why we want to do this first is we're going to have a lot to rethink as we go through the weekend, and we're going to give you enough time, because we do this first, in order to go, okay, I could change this around in my house. I could transform that. We're building this building over here. I could do it in a different way. And then you have access to Clint, to myself, in order to kind of question some of the ideas that may come up. Does that sound great to everybody?
Yep. Cool. I want to say one thing before we leave this. We have several hundred of the most elite athletes in the world that have been using grounding, some of them for 7, 8 years. It's not in the news. They don't tell anybody. But this is the reason. 100% feeling more rested, more recovered. In fact, we made one product just for them called the Recovery Bag. It's a sleeping bag, a big sheet.
That's my personal favorite as a traveler. And, I was just traveling all over the world when we were in Melbourne. I threw it out the second floor of the window, the grounding rod, and just stuck it in the ground, because they have different plugs over there.
Yes.
So I couldn't use the U.S. plug thing. Right. So, just stuck it in the ground, and literally it's coming in through the window. That's the thing where you can camp yourself out next to a sacred spring, throw the grounding rod into the water, and channel the energy right into your tent right around you. Do you see where that technology goes? Do you see when somebody says, I tried everything, how they had not tried nothing? Anybody ever heard that? Like, I tried everything. It's like, you not tried nothing yet. We got a lot of work to do. There are lots of options coming to light every day. And one of the things you agree with me on, Clint, is, and you've said this many times to me, we are learning so much all the time about this stuff.
Right. Every day.
Okay, well, let's get some questions.
Oh, hold on. We have a question from the web stream. In case you don't know, we're actually streaming this live on the internet to about over 500 people right now. And we're having questions that are coming through. Sean, if you just want to jump on the mic. He's running for a mic right now.
Yes. Somebody asked if they could be grounded by swimming in their swimming pool.
Most cases, yes, because the pool is in the earth. And even though it has a plastic liner, the jets where they're coming in, the water is going through the pump and stuff, it's grounded somewhere. But generally, I would believe that it would be. Plastic hot tubs and stuff are just the opposite. You ever get in a hot tub and you want to feel good and whatever, and you get out the next morning, you're stiff, you can't move? That's an ungrounded hot tub.
That's a very good question. That's an excellent question.
There's one more.
Yes.
If they're trying to ground themselves in their home through a regular outlet, is there any kind of filter needed, or you just go right with a regular wire into the outlet? Just plug some metal thing into the outlet.
Yeah. We get that call once a day. Most guys, they call up and ask certain questions and whatever, and they want to, and they want to experiment. They want to see if this is not crazy, and I totally understand. I was one of those guys 11 years ago. But you can't just put a bare wire into an electrical ground.
I've tried that. You don't want to do it.
No, and connect it to your body. All of the cords that we have a safety feature built in. So if your ground is working and everything's perfect, then the product works. If the ground isn't there or it's not wired right, you're not going to get the benefit of grounding, but you're not going to feel any other benefit either. Or not experience anything else either. So, but we can get into that more detail later.
Yes. Microphone.
I live in a house that was built in 1956, and I have the grounding sheet with the grounding rod. But how would I go and ground my computer in a house that was built in 1956 that's not up to date?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, you need to know 50% of all homes in the United States do not have a ground in the bedrooms. And most often the computers are in these secondary bedrooms that have been turned into offices and so on. The only way, that you can take care of that problem, first of all, there's a device that we have in these products that you can test the outlet and find out whether or not there is a ground. If there isn't a ground, then you need to call an electrician and have them come in and run a dedicated ground rod outside the house. They run a wire up, drill a hole through, mount an outlet, and then you have a perfect ground. That's like if you sell a house. You have to ground the electrical outlets in your bathrooms and your kitchens before you can sell the house. So the electrician comes out and does this. So it's a common practice. And we can talk more on that later also.
Take a couple more questions.
This gentleman right here, if we can get a mic. Where's our mic? Right on.
Stan.
My wife has a sheet, and she says, "Do you feel the difference?" No. My question is I work with my hands, working on structural steels and things, and I'm presuming that by doing that, I'm grounding myself daily.
Yeah. And by and large, you have no health issues.
Other than my own stupidity at times.
No. But you don't. But for your age, you don't have the cardiovascular issues and the arthritis.
No, in fact, last August I was electrocuted.
Right.
I had third-degree burns and stuff, and.
But you survived, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. He's bringing up a very good point, and this baffled me for years when I first started investigating all of this, because women hardly ever touch the earth. Can you remember the last time you took your shoes off and touched the earth? Okay,
this is a different kind of audience.
It's much different.
Okay, well,
we've got people who are gardeners in here.
Right, but the point is, I think this is accurate, and I think you can find it on Google somewhere, a nice source for it. But it's like 95% of all visits to a practitioner are female. Wow. And so they say, well, men, they won't go until they drop dead of a heart attack. It's not true. What it is, men are basically healthier in general than women are. And what it is, they go out and play golf. They get grounded accidentally here or there, or they work in a garage, or they're touching things, or they're outdoors more. And they're just on the move more. And women, a lot of women, they get up in the morning and they're on carpet. They put on shoes, they get in the car, drive to work, and they sit on carpet and computers and electrified all day long. And women are much more sensitive in the first place. But the question you brought up is very real. A lot of men, especially golfers and especially athletes and people who are more athletic or more outdoors or more hands-on in their work, get accidentally grounded throughout the day. And women hardly ever get grounded in their daily routine.
Okay, now let's see if we can get a question. I want to see someone who's serious about asking a question out there. Somebody, come on. Yeah. All right, there we go. That's it. The squeakiest gear gets the prize.
Was I squeaky? Okay, a couple of years ago I went to a fair and had my Carillion photography done. And I kicked off my flip-flops and I sat down and they took my picture and they're like, "Do you do a lot of yoga?" And so I was just wondering if you guys have done any Carillion before and after, because I had an incredible just white and purple aura. I went back an hour later to try to get that same aura, and it wasn't the same, but we figured it was my shoes being on.
We have not done
that. I haven't done that.
It'd be kind of fun to see.
But we'll certainly ground somebody and try it.
Right on.
Okay, way back in the corner over there. That gentleman, yes, who's standing up. We can get a mic over there. Yeah, okay, I think we'll do one more question after this gentleman.
I have 2 teenagers at home. Has there been any studies done on kids?
Oh, man.
Well, yes and no, but we can't really talk about some of those, but we've done a lot of. But here's something interesting. The optimum health of a human being peaks at about 27, meaning you can do about anything in your life and you can survive anything and maintain health, usually up until about age 27. And then after that, entropy sets in, life goes the other direction. It has something to do with families, childbirth, all that kind of stuff. But what's going on today is like 40% of our children can be diagnosed with diabetes. Is that what they're saying?
It's some extraordinarily ridiculous number.
It's some extraordinary number. And we have all of these health disorders. I mean, health is the most natural state of a child, of any human being until they're 20. I mean, you really have to work hard to destroy your health before age 27. It's almost impossible unless you have something chronic. A chronic stressor that is just wearing your immune system down, wearing your body down. You're not giving it the food, the resources, and
Clint, I'd like to ask you, just in regards to pregnancy in women and the high rise of autism in the last 35 to 40 years, do you think there's any correlation possibly with not being as grounded in the last few decades?
Well, that's a very touchy subject in the medical world, and I have my own observations and my own beliefs, but I believe it's related to inflammation. I believe it's related possibly to the multiples of shots at one time, provoking a huge immune response. And if these kids are not grounded, I mean, there could be a connection. I'm not going to say there is a connection because I can't validate it.
Right.
But cowboy logic says, hey, give me a break, folks. There's something going on environmentally across the nation. What is it that's uniform in this age group? It's only shots.
And speaking of inflammation, you've mentioned to me that when you're grounded, it's impossible to be inflamed. Meaning, you may be inflamed and then become grounded, but you can't become any more inflamed while you're grounded. And in fact, it's going to mitigate that a lot.
Yeah. See, inflammation is one of the most unnatural states. I mean, we read about inflammation in the literature and in the media today, like it's you hurt yourself and then you get inflammation, and some people don't recover from inflammation. Well, I can tell you, they're all dead wrong. Inflammation is an unnatural process. And I think you covered this.
We covered that.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention before we get to our last question, then we're going to do some fun stuff. Barefoot and pregnant. Interesting phrase, isn't it? Okay, someone on this side of the room over here. Yes, this woman right here in the aisle. Yes, you. Mike.
Okay, so you're telling us all these different tactics to become grounded. So what do you suggest? What type of shoe wear do you suggest that we wear? I'm a barefoot girl. I live in Boston. I go out in the morning and get my paper in the dew, and I'm from Idaho, and I'm like a barefoot girl. And I grew up wearing moccasins and things, but obviously that would make sense to me. Maybe that the closer you can become to the earth would be better, but for just an everyday practical thing, what do you suggest we wear?
Well, the only thing you can do is go barefoot or wear a moccasin or a thin leather-soled shoe. As you wear leather, your foot perspires, the body oil, salts, and stuff build up conductivity.
So better than any kind of rubber?
Yeah,
leather's better.
Don't wear any rubber.
Just
or
leather.
Any plastic shoes. But let me just make a quick little point here. The only time, the shoe industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. They are gigantic. It's unbelievable. It's like there's 300 million pair of flip-flops sold a year just in the U.S. It's crazy. But anyhow, Nike, I'm not talking about Nike adversely here or Reebok or anybody else. These people build athletic shoes for improved athletic performance on the track, whatever. That's how it started out. And then eventually our children started idolizing certain players and whatever, and that led to them wearing more of these big, heavy, thick shoes and so on and so on. But I've worked with the shoe companies for the last 4 or 5 years, indirectly and directly. And there's no shoe company going to come out with a grounded shoe. Mm-hmm. Because that means this is a good shoe, and what about all my other shoes? And I got to be careful what I say here so I don't get in too much trouble, so to bail me out here. But the only way that corporate America changes, and I spent half my life in corporate America, is when consumer demands a change has to occur. So if you want grounded shoes, you're going to have to tell them that you want grounded shoes and make some noise about it.
So leather flip-flops?
Leather flip-flops are fine as long as they don't have the plastic liners in between.
Better than the rubber fleet?
Yeah. So if you want leather flip-flops without the insulative stuff in it, you've got to tell these shoe companies what you want. Yeah.
Okay,
I've been investigating moccasins, by the way.
I love them.
Of course, you want it leather on the bottom,
Yeah.
but you've got to look inside underneath the foot pad because sometimes there is an insulating plastic foam under there.
You want the old Native American, the
original.
original.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
But we're going to go to work on the shoe companies. So I'm
Yes.
picking on them pretty good right now.
All right.
And I'm not going to stop because I know that is the number one problem for these children, these kids today. They got to get these shoes off of them. They get up in the morning, the first thing they do is put a plastic soled shoe on. They go and do to school or whatever they do, but they've got shoes on all day long. The last thing they do before they go to bed is take their shoe off and
got to
get in
give
bed.
them yoga toes.
And I think some of them even sleep with their shoes. I mean, I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, I just want to jump up here a little bit further. I want to just show an image. We had the left brain. Let's get up to that. Here we go. Okay, well, real quick, just as in terms of what Clint has discovered in the grounding is low circulation, which is an issue. I get that all the time, Clint. I can't even tell you how many people have come up to me and they're like, I have no circulation in my fingertips, no circulation in my toes. So this is showing changes in inflammation, and also we're going to see some images that show increases in blood flow. Like I think this one right here, this next one. Here's one right here. So on your right side, you see the after. On the left side, before. You can see that there's black in the fingers because there's no circulation, and you see with the grounding immediate changes in circulation. Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
So that's a common issue. A lot of us in this room are dealing with it. Grounding improves that.
Yeah. This is carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel. Oh, that was carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've also mentioned, and you've heard it referenced, that you have much stronger protection from 60 hertz, which is all our appliances, when you're grounded. I believe I threw the image right in here. Let's throw it in there. There it is. This is when you're ungrounded. That's the 60 hertz wave. And right below it is when you're grounded. That's the change in what's hitting your body when you touch a pad, when you touch the earth barefoot, when you're connected to the earth electrically.
Yeah, what I'd like to add just a little bit to that, the bottom chart with the more solid red line, that is identical to the Earth's hum. That is when we use the word ground, that is the signal that we reference anything electrical with like an oscilloscope or anything like that. So what we do is to measure the electric field voltage that's being induced into the body when you're in bed, we put a patch on somebody, a meter, and patch them, and then read the voltage, ground the meter to the earth, and then we ground the body to the earth. So what we're showing here is that we've restored the earth's hum to the body, the normal signal to the body. And when you're connected to the earth electrically, when you're touching the earth, you are electrically as big as the earth. And the earth is infinite. So it can swallow up and push away and mitigate the effects of these electric fields on your body. That's how we use it in the communications industry.
EMF protection is essentially all that. Yeah. I have every gadget in the book. I have a whole backpack full of every single gadget I've collected over the years. The neutralizer, the naturalizer, the tachyon stuff. I got this thing on. I got them all. The Q-link, the X-link, the this, the that, the pulse, the pulsor, the plasmonics, all of them, right? The what's the other one? That one that's biotech, BioPro. That's it. Yeah. That thing. I got them all. I've used them all, and it's all good. But it's nothing like this because what you're doing here is you're amplifying your own. You're bringing electrons to shield you. Yeah. Essentially. Okay, now we got to get onto this thing about the left and right brain, which I think is just coming up here. Okay, here's the blood again. Oh, we got to go. Oh, hold on. Here we go. That's the push. There it is. There's the left and right brain. Yeah. You can see immediately the change right there at the moment of grounding, right? You see that? There's the left brain electrical patterning, and then immediate changes over here. Now, a good friend of mine, I've been meaning to tell you this actually, my friend Tony Wright broke the world record in staying awake. He's a raw foodist. 11 days plus staying awake. He broke the world record. Now, the way he was able to do that is he figured out, and you probably figured this out too, that if you just do right-brained activities, you don't need to sleep. As soon as you got to do computations and analysis and taxes, you're gone. Right? That's that left brain hum that we're seeing here. Now, you can see quickly that if you just ground yourself, that whole left brain hum can change, and we can radically influence the dominance, possibly, of our left versus right brain. Left brain dominance, analytical, logical, this is the way it is, platitudes, everything follows this law, structure, and then we go to right brain, it's imagination, visualization, creativity, etc. So the right and left brain are affected differently by grounding. Clint, do you want to comment on that?
Gaetan would be better to comment. He did this study. But basically, I have a thought.
Do you want to come on up here, Gaetan?
Yeah, he this is one of the first studies that Gaetan did. No.
Gaetan, you were wearing shoes. This is a sacrilegious moment.
I know. Well, he's grounded.
He had it in his hand.
But anyhow, one thing I'll add just in the meantime while he's coming up is the brain burns more energy than anything else in the body, right? And when you're thinking and burning energy, whatever, there's a lot of free radical process going on, a lot of overstimulation. And by grounding the body, it absorbs, quiets everything in the body. It quiets even the heart. I mean, the electric field of the heart. I mean, it dampens everything in the body. I want to let Gaetan explain this a little better.
Okay, I'm going to give a bit of background how we get to that. It was 2002. I was director of research at the California Institute for Human Science in Encinitas. And somehow Clint came and gave a presentation about earthing at the time. I've never heard of it. I was frankly skeptical when I heard about it the first time. And then Dale came to me, and she's the first one who approached me, said, well, we would like to do a research at your facility because we had all these equipment. So I said, well, if you're paying for it, that's fine. So we did a research. I was skeptical. I didn't know, just grounding, it's like that would do anything. And one of the biggest surprise was this, that and the muscles immediately change. The muscle tension, most of those who have, tension in the upper, because a good place to measure tension in the muscle is the upper trapezius, the muscle of the shoulders. Those who had high tension immediately went down. And the left brain thing was, totally unexpected. And, why would this happen only on the left brain and not the right brain? That's the thing that got me really started, believing in this. And then we decided to repeat those, and we did another research project. And we did all the precautions we could to avoid any connection with any electrical signals. So we had, for example, all the wires that were coming to the person were sent to a box, and that box was transmitting the data through a fiber optics so that there was no electrical connection possible. We repeated that research. The results were published in another paper that is already published. That was the second study that I did on that, just to prove that this happened. But I was, we wanted to have this research done because this is unbelievable. How the one brain, respond and the other doesn't. The muscles also respond instantaneously. The skin conductivity also changed like this. You saw the picture before. That's another study I did. It just changed. And what we think happens is this. When you ground yourself, the body, you have this thing with the potential that equalizes immediately. It takes like the speed of light. But then the next thing is that the autonomic nervous system realizes, something is different. And then it realizes, we're back to normal. We're back to something that we used to have. But so you start having certain reactions. The muscle immediately relaxes. Even if you don't, and we had the opposite also. We had some people who were very tired, who had been like a truck driver, who was sleeping all the time there. His muscle tension came actually up when we were grounding him. So that means, again, just like the cortisol level, a normalization of all the body parameters. That's what we're seeing. But to get back to the study and what happened when you get grounded, is that first thing that we think happened, you have this potential thing. The second thing is the autonomic nervous system reacts, and it immediately corrects the tension in the muscles, the brain function, and the skin conductance. So we know that this happened within 2 seconds. I checked like a number of people. Some people it happened within half a second. Some people it may take up to 2 seconds. But then what happens? Then the body waits. It waits. Say, well, yeah, this is good, but it's just happening right now. And we don't know. And that's why we found out that we need to keep grounding at least 20 or 30 minutes. After that, the body said, this is for real. No, we're starting now a healing process. And that's when we see those changes in inflammation. We see a change in people pain. We see inflammation going away. That's why we need you guys to be grounded at least an hour. We want to make sure that the brain, and that's what I think has happened, the autonomic nervous system, the brain says, okay, we're starting a healing process.